Hi everyone, my name's Claire Oglesby and I'm one of the tutors here at Tolley Exam Training. I also look after online, so I wanted to do a quick video to show you our timed on-screen mock system, otherwise known as TOM. We developed the system last summer after it was announced that the ADIT and CTA exams were going to be online going forwards. Our TOM system replicates the functionality of Exam 4, allowing students to practice questions in our question banks, practice exams, mocks, etc. in an almost identical online format. We've kept up with any changes, so an example would be the recent announcement about the introduction of rulers within the Exam 4 system for the May 21 sitting. This was announced on the Friday evening, and on the Monday morning we released a new version of the TOM system incorporating this new change. Anyway, let's show you, let's have a look. So as I mentioned, our question banks are within this system. So let's start with these. Now if you click into your Academy, it should look something like this. So I'm going to go to the My Academy section. Now I've got some admin bars at the top there that you won't have, so just ignore those. But once we click into My Academy, we can see our various courses. I'm going to have a look at ADT Paper 1. So if I click on My Learning, we can see all the various materials. Now if I scroll down and go into my study phase, I've got my various question banks and study manuals. Now you'll notice here that I have got an income tax question bank. I've got it as a PDF. So I could open this as a PDF, I'll just quickly show you that. Or if I just go back, I can open it as an on-screen question bank. Now, here's one I made earlier, as they'd say, because you can see I've already been into this one. So I just wanted to show you some of the functionality of our TOM system. So the TOM system brings up the answer box on the left-hand side of the screen and the question paper on the right-hand side. Now you can see here, this isn't actually the question paper, this is the question bank, but this allows you to practice questions as you're going through your materials and typing your solutions on the left-hand side like you would doing the real exams. So as I say, I thought I'd show you this to show the functionality. So in terms of typing, you would use your tab button as you would in Exam 4 to move things across the page. That's what I've done to get these the look of the columns. And then the ruler function, which was recently announced, if I just click on this button here, you can see this enters in the rulers to help me with my columns. Now I'm just going to delete those. But if I wanted to type something new in, so let's just put test, and I wanted to go across, whoops, so I could just keep pressing test and again use my tab function, then I can do that. Now all of the functionality here is the same as Exam 4, so you can see I've got my copy and paste options, I've got my rulers, so I can have 4 columns or I can have 5, 6, 7. Like here, you can use your keyboard shortcuts as well. I've got my bold, my italics, my underline. So I can type like I would in Exam 4. I can delete, so you can backspace or delete. I can undo that if I want to. It was announced that the delete function's now possible. So previously the delete button on the keyboard had been disabled. That's not the case any longer. So you can now delete as well as doing backspace. And like I say, you can just keep typing, but you're using the tab keyboard button to move into those columns, and you can now use this new ruler function to help give you that visual guide in terms of the columns. Now with the question paper here, what we could do is highlight the text. So if I drag across, that's what I've just done there. So if I drag across, it then brings me up a highlight button. If I click on that, it will highlight the text. Now, just like in Exam 4, there's no way to undo that highlighting, but we can highlight the question paper just like you can do in Exam 4. Now, there's 2 features on this page that we don't have within the practice exam section, which I'll show you in a second. We've got a save progress at the bottom. So I'll talk about how this differs within the exam system in a second. And what we also have here is a print button. So we have a print option within our question banks because I know it's sometimes nice for students to print off their work, especially on a revision course, and keep your answers within all of your course notes. So that print button isn't possible within the practice exam section, which we're going to have a look at in a second, because you don't have that in exam 4. It's not possible to print off your question paper or your answers. Okay, so hopefully that helps you with the system. There's various, Zoom options over here, but like I say, with the question paper or the revision question bank, it's not a revision one, it's a normal one, but the question banks, this sits just like your exam paper will do. So I can save my progress, I can go back to my learning, and then that will be there when I come perhaps on the second day of my revision course, if this was my revision question bank, or I just come back to my studies. Okay, so that's the on-screen question bank, and we have that for all of our different question banks. So that's our course question banks, our pre-revision question banks, and our revision question banks. So there's a PDF version, then there's a second version within the TOM software. Now what I want to show you now is how this sits within our exams. So if we go to my progress, this is where you have all of your different exams that are due for your various different courses. Now, as I say, I'm going to use my ADIT papers. So you'll see first of all that you've got your various practice exam due dates. So I've got my 1A, my 1B, and I've got my pre-revision mock all showing. Now we've got some instructions here. So let's pretend I'm going to do my 1B. So if I click on instructions, you can see there's various guides to this system with screenshots that you can work through if you want to, if you're new to this. Also, there's a download exam tip button, which brings up some tips for the open book on-screen exams. So again, if you haven't attempted one of our papers within our TOM system, it's worth just reading through those before you start. But when you're ready to attempt your exam, you press on the Sit the Timed On-Screen Mock. Now, there's a couple of things to mention on this page. You will see here that we have got 315 minutes. Now, the exam is 3 hours, 30 minutes. That's been confirmed, unless, of course, you're doing awareness, and that's 3 hours, 15. So otherwise, it's 3 hours, 30 minutes. We've actually given 5 hours 15 minutes for our practice exams. So because these are the first ones that you sit within the course, we want to give students time to get used to the functionality of the TOM system, and therefore, be preparing to type their answers where perhaps in the past they haven't had to type. So although the exam is still 3 hours 30, we've kind of given that buffer, so there's 5 hours 15 in there because this is a time system. Okay, we'll see that in a second. So that's telling you how long you have. Now, the other button we have that's quite important is the autosave button. So our system does require you to be on the internet whilst you're sitting the paper. Exam 4 doesn't, so you need to be connected to the internet with Exam 4 to access the paper, but you can work offline as you're typing your answers. You then have to be connected to the internet at the end to then submit your paper on Exam 4. So one of the differences with our system is it does require you to be on the internet throughout the exam. So this autosave button is key. It's best to check this before you make a start, and it's just there to make sure that there's no firewalls or VPNs or anything preventing that autosave from working. So I've checked my autosave, which is great. So now I'm going to click continue, and that's going to take me into the exam. So you can see here, I go into my exam, and this looks very familiar. So this is the same functionality that I had when I was in my on-screen question bank. I've got my exam paper over here. I'm not going to scroll down actually because some students may not have sat this one yet, so I don't want to give the game away. So this is the capital gains tax paper. Now it does say 3 hours a quarter. We have been told that we've got the additional 15 minutes because these are now online exams. And like I say, you can see at the top here, we've got the timer counting down for the 5 hours 15. Okay, so there's 5 hours 15 in there. So that's counting down. The other thing we've got here is a green button. That's showing that this is still saving, that the autosave is working. So if the autosave wasn't working, that would go red and you just need to contact somebody. Okay, so you can contact the client service team if that goes red. But otherwise, all of this functionality is exactly the same as what we've just seen in the on-screen question bank. So you would type your answer, so in exam 4, you have the sections in which you'd actually have to type your answers in. So it's set up and it basically says question 1 and you go through and there's a gap for you to write your answer in. That's a difference here. We don't have that pre-set out gap for you because obviously this software is being used for all of our different practice exams. So you need to set out the questions yourself, but once you get going, as I say, you use your tab button to work across, or you can just type your answer as normal. Okay, and it will just naturally flow down. And then once you have finished your exam within our system, you will click submit. That will ask you if you are sure. You will then click on finish and that submits your exam through, and that pretty much goes straight to the marker to then be marked by the team and then comes back obviously back onto your portal as normal. Okay, so that hopefully will help. I just wanted to show you around a bit for those of you that haven't seen it before. So hopefully by the time you sit the exam, you will be familiar with this. This gives you the opportunity to practice. Exam 4 will be available approximately 4 weeks before the real exams, but please note that there's no ability to submit exams for anybody to mark or save your work. It is purely just to become familiar with that Exam 4 software. I hope you found this useful. If you have any queries at all, please contact me. My email address is on the screen. Good luck, everybody.